And I remember what our pastor said when there was a gentleman in our church that just lost his wife in a car accident, and then 2 years earlier lost his daughter in a car accident in the same way. And he was tragically lost with his whole family and was going to raise his granddaughter all by himself. And as I wondered what our pastor was going to say with some great wisdom, thinking that we could have an answer for such a tragedy, and as I listened to my pastor, he said this. He says, "I can't feel your pain, and I don't understand your grief, but I'll cry with you."
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
And I believe many tears have been cried over what's happened to our country and for those that have fallen. And if I could, before we start our ceremony, let's just honor those who unfortunately went to their daily activities, who thought it'd be another day, probably had their coffee, doing their daily work, and then out of the blue, no warning, they became a victim. So if we could just take a moment, maybe 30 seconds, and just have silence for them. Okay, we're here to celebrate.
Amen.
Hey.
We are celebrating, and the theme of the speakers that are here today to express on what their heart is, we didn't ask them to say we have a message that we want you to say. We said you tell us what's on your heart. So we have a mixture of people who are here. We have citizens of different walks with different beliefs. And this is a time that we can, I imagine that if there was a value system of battles in our country, that I can imagine a dividing line of a field where two enemy camps were fighting hand to hand in old days. And maybe they took a day of rest, and they didn't fight, and they cooked, and they sat and rested and looked across at each other and wondered, why are we doing this? And so this is our day to rest. This isn't a day for politics. This isn't a day to say that this is right and this is wrong as far as maybe our value systems of different parties. But this is a time to come together with unity, to talk about freedom, to be able to talk about what does this country stand for, and what awoke on those days, so many days ago, 8 years of yesterday. And what are these values of freedom? So as we begin this, we will say a pledge. But in this pledge, let's think for a second of the words that are in the pledge. As we do repeat these words, this time, let's open up our outer ears and listen to those words. A flag throughout history has represented your side, be it on a football team or a baseball team. It represented your side of the team. And our flag, which many have around us, and that's up here in the center, we have two flags. We have a flag that's of the state. We have a state flag that basically says that we are Arkansans. We are part of a state that's part of many states that form a union. And in that union, we come together under allegiance. And even though we are free, and when we start our prayer, we're going to understand that our country was founded on the foundation of the building blocks of prayer and of values from a God. And then God said that we were created free. And so these foundations are being rekindled about how our foundation of our country was created. And then we're going to kind of put it together and say, how can we express our love for the ability to live in the experiment of freedom that no other country in this world has been able to have for so long? And we'll express that in words, in a song, our national anthem. So at this point, let's not do it as just another way of opening a ceremony or opening up a meeting. But as we say the Pledge of Allegiance, listen to the words as we do pledge our allegiance. And as we do sit here and pray, many different belief systems in prayer, If yours is of Jewish or Christianity or whatever it may be, then pray to your God. And pray to a higher power that He will have mercy and that He can create health and unity in our country so that we can see that without a higher power, we're lost. So during that prayer, let's pray for our safety and unity. So I'd like, if we could, to begin with a prayer. And if I could, Tim, would you come up, please?